On Wednesdays, we wear pink, get rid of internalized misogyny, and finally allow us to enjoy discussing 2000s chick flicks and appreciate them for the cult films that they are. Today we will break down a few scenes from Mean Girls, the iconic 2004 movie starring Lindsey Lohan, directed by Mark Waters and written by Tina Fey. Lindsey Lohan actually worked previously with the director Mark Waters on the Freaky Friday movie. We'll talk about the creative team, casting, directing, set design, and the iconic costuming. The story follows a young 16-year-old Cady Heron who starts attending high school for the first time after being homeschooled for her whole life. Her parents are zoologists, so she lived most of her life in Africa where her parents were doing their research. She makes friends pretty quickly with the school's outcasts Janice and Damien, and her first lessons from them is on the plastics. Cue this iconic scene where Cady finds out that Gretchen Winter's hair is so big because it's full of secrets, and that evil takes human form in Regina George. The scene became so iconic it was recreated by Ariana Grande in her Thank You Next music video. Regina George is played by Rachel McAdams, who for the entirety of the movie wears a blonde wig, because she could not fully bleach her hair for the role. I don't know why I never realized that her hair was actually a wig, but it makes so much sense now. Rachel would even say in an interview, "I just thought that was very Regina. Long, blonde Barbie hair. The color looks perfect." For the role of Regina George, both Lindsey Lohan and Amanda Seyfried auditioned, while Rachel McAdams auditioned for the role of Cady Heron initially. However, the roles were decided to be switched, since the director and the writer said that the inverse roles would suit the actresses better. Lindsey Lohan decided to play the role of the nice girl, Cady Heron, so the public would not base her real personality on Regina's. Rachel McAdams, however, was chosen to play the mean girl, Regina George, because only nice girls can play mean girls, according to the producer. The two actresses actually have a staggering 8-year age difference, Rachel McAdams actually being closer in age with Amy Poehler, who was playing her Not Like Other Mom's mom. And for Amanda Seyfried, this was actually her feature film debut, and she was only 17 years old on the set. The next scene, the cliques of the school are presented following the map of the tables of the cafeteria like a mind map, with crucial information of where you can sit and where you should avoid at all costs. The movie was actually based on the book Queen Bees and Wannabes, Helping Your Daughter Survive Cliques, Gossip, Boyfriends, and Other Realities of Adolescence by Rosalind Wiseman, even though it is a non-fiction parental self-help guide with no narrative at all. Tina Fey remembers thinking when the movie was approved for production that at that moment only she realized what she got herself into. I mean, adapting a self-help book into a movie is not the easiest task. This was also the screenwriting feature film debut for her, so she based the script on mostly her own experiences, and also the memories of high school years. She even called all the characters by real names of the people in her life on who she based the characters, Cady actually being the name of her roommate in college, and Miss Norbury, the character that Tina Fey is portraying, being the name of her high school teacher for German. Tina Fey herself would say that she was the mean girl in her high school years, something I actually didn't expect. She envisioned backgrounds for all the characters. If any of the actors had questions about their characters, she could fill in the blanks for them. Francisi, who played the character of Damien, would recall that the table read for this movie was quote-unquote fire. I've been to many table reads, and I always feel like the best movies has the best table reads, he would say. Whenever a movie didn't have a table read or the table read was meek, there were problems on set. At this table read, everybody was shooting bullseyes, and I was trying so hard to land every joke. I was ready 4 lines before my lines to just land the joke. He would also say that initially another famous actor was set to play heartthrob Aaron Samuels, but he refuses to divulge the secret even to this day. At the table, there was also an actor who wasn't Jonathan Bennett, tapped to portray Aaron Samuels, but I'll never say who. We've all collectively agreed that's the one thing we'll never tell because we don't want to shame the actor. There will be 100 articles about him, and he's a good actor. Tina Fey confessed that while casting Jonathan Bennett as Aaron Samuels, one of the reasons that she did this was because he looked like Jimmy Fallon. Do what you want with that information. After getting an introduction into the laws of high school, Cady has her first interaction with the plastics that ask her to sit with them for lunch. In this scene, the three girls are eating the same thing, a sandwich with lettuce and tomatoes in a plastic container, and a Perrier water with a white straw. This is a bit of foreshadowing of the many intricate rules that they have for the group in order to be allowed to sit with them. Moreover, the girls never once call themselves the plastics throughout the movie. Here we get the "so you agree, you think you're really pretty," and Gretchen compliments Cady's bracelet, calling it very fetch, and saying that it is British slang for cool. The word fetch actually was invented by Tina Fey because she said she did not want to use a real word that would go out of style pretty quickly. In August 2013, the White House tweeted a photo of Obama's dog, Bo, holding a tennis ball in his mouth with the caption, "Bo, stop trying to make fetch happen." This is referencing actually a later scene in which Regina tells Gretchen to stop trying to make fetch happen, it's not gonna happen. The whole movie is actually a meme generator. I can quote from the top of my head lines like, "Get in loser, we're going shopping. On Wednesdays we wear pink." By the way, I hope you appreciate me posting this video on Wednesday while wearing pink. Queen of planning ahead and scheduling. Not only the quotes are impeccable, but also the costuming. I love the resurgence of 2000s movie fashion appreciation and video essays channels like Modern Girls dissecting the costuming process. For Mean Girls, Mary Jane Ford, who was the costume designer for the movie, had to read a lot of teen magazines and flip through yearbooks. She would say, "Real schools are not quite as glossy, but we wanted a little more gloss just given the subject matter of the group. It's called the plastics after all." She estimated that Lohan had 59 costume changes while everyone else had over 30. Moreover, Robert Ebert would write in his yearbook movie 2007 that Mean Girls dissects high school society with a lot of observant detail that seems surprisingly well informed. The screenplay by SNL's Tina Fey is both a comic and a sociological achievement. And I think that's true because the movie still keeps on being so real and relatable even 17 years later. We get to enter this world that is so familiar to us in so many senses, and I think introducing it through the new girl that comes to school is such a good way to do it, even though it has become quite cliché at this point. I mean, Twilight, Clueless, Pitch Perfect, even Harry Potter are using the new kid at school narrative. Harry Potter is the new Mean Girls, I swear. Even though it is a cliché in many movies, it's a good way of world building since you are discovering it with the newly introduced character, learning everything alongside them, and this is so much better than to be thrown directly into a well-established world already and to be confused for the first half of the movie. In Mean Girls, Cady is not only joining a new school, she is also infiltrating into the plastics clique, pushed by Janice and Damien in order to spy on them and ultimately destroy them from the inside. Robert Ebert would also say, "In the middle of all this, Lindsey Lohan provides a center by being centered. She has a quiet self-confidence. We believe her when she says that because of her years in Africa, I had never lived in a world where adults didn't trust me. She never allows the character to tilt into caricature, and for that matter, even the plastics seem real, within their definitions of themselves, and not like the witch herdens of some movies." Cady is quite ambitious in terms of social rank advancements. On her first day, she is the outsider, needing to eat her lunch in the bathroom by herself, having to sit behind the farting guy, and all in all finding herself sticking out like a sore thumb. I think this is another reason why she accepted so easily Janice's plan. She could not afford to lose the two friends that were nice to her. Not only the characters in the cast started to get to know each other and be friends, but also the actors behind the scenes. The friendly cast members stayed in spacious apartments and bonded by seeing Radiohead together. Francisi, who played Damien, even visited Niagara Falls with Caitlin and Bennett, who played Janice and Aaron. Lacey Shepard, who played Toaster Strudel heiress Gretchen Wieners in the movie, turned 21 during the filming of Mean Girls. The cast and crew had grown so close that she wanted to celebrate the occasion with them. They were filming the mall scene on her birthday, and the crew brought in a cake and sang happy birthday. Shepard returned the favor by serving up a feast for her Mean Girls family on Canadian Thanksgiving. The movie also introduces the character Mr. Duval that is wearing a cast, and that is because Tim Meadows, the actor playing him, broke his hand right before the shooting of the movie. So as explanation, they used that Mr. Duval had carpal tunnel syndrome. talent show scene is one of my favorites because we get to know the characters of the movie so much better. Let's start with Damien's gorgeous singing of Beautiful by Christina Aguilera. Francisi actually shot this scene without an audience, with the whole room empty except for the actor's mom. The song that was performed also had a big chance of being replaced. He would recall they weren't going to give us a release for the song, so they had a whole list of other songs for me to choose from, in which I chose either Out Here on My Own by Irene Cara, song from Fame, or I was going to sing One Moment in Time by Whitney Houston. But because my character was gay, Linda Perry, the writer of the song, agreed to let me sing it because she's queer. Another fun thing is that the "Don't Look at Me" line, which Damien says to Miss Norbury as she plays the piano, was snuck in by Francisi in the script. The line was inspired by Aguilera saying the same phrase on the track recording. Francisi would also comment on how important was for him and for the LGBTQ+ community the representation achieved in the mainstream through this character. At the time of the shooting of the movie, he was not out yet. He recalls receiving a letter from a fan around the 10th university. The letter began, "I don't know if you're gay or not, it doesn't matter. But when I was in 8th grade, I was beat up for being chubby and tortured for being a sissy. And then your movie came out, and in 9th grade, on the first day of my freshman year, the popular senior girls were like, 'You're like Damien, come sit with us.'" This story and many others that he would hear from his fans really helped him grasp just how big of an influence his role had. The casting department searched through 4 cities to find the right actor to play Damien. The Mean Girls movie was also remade into a musical written by Tina Fey and with the music composed by her husband Jeff Richmond. The musical transformed the character of Damien into a fully realized queer teen of today, which Francisi said probably couldn't have been then. Gray Hansen, who portrayed Damien on Broadway, even received a Tony nomination for Best Featured Actor in a Musical. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler coach Rajiv Surendra, who played Kevin Napur, on how to rap for his on-screen performance in the school's winter talent show. Faye actually gives all the credit to Amy for this because Amy is more of a rap person in her opinion. Amy definitely coached him on how to do the rap, and she actually gave him some of the moves and choreography for it, she would say. Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, and Tim Meadows are SNL casts. Paramount Pictures actually had mixed feelings about this casting, and director Mark Waters explained, "It's weird, but Paramount had a nervousness about Saturday Night Live. They've been burned on some SNL movies that had come from Lorne, so they didn't want many SNL actors in Mean Girls, because it might feel like an SNL movie and people might shy away from it. The studio was particularly resistant about casting Meadows, but the director stepped in to fight on the comedian's behalf." When Faye suggested Poehler played the velvet jumpsuited Mrs. George, Waters immediately started the process of hiring her despite the challenges associated with scheduling around her SNL tapings. And of course, now we have the famous Jingle Bells Rock dancing scene of the plastics. A little Easter egg introduced by the costume designer Mary Jane Ford is that the material of the skirts was also made of plastic as an emblem of the clique. The costumes were fairly easy in execution since it had to be something that the girls would be able to put together by themselves at home. Except for having memorized by heart all these lines from the phone call scene, I have also found out that the scene was not that easy to shoot at that time and that it involved some subtle camera tricks. Waters would explain that since Lindsey Lohan was still a minor at that time, they only had about 9 hours of shooting time a day, which makes me think how many hours did they make the adults shoot for continuously, but that's besides the point. The scheduling meant that all 4 actresses had to be shot separately during the scene, so in order to achieve the flawless comic timing, they had to improvise. He would say, "The trick behind that scene was that I shot everything at 48 frames per second, which is basically a slow motion rate. But we recorded synced sound," said Waters. "In the editing room, I could play it at 24 frames per second and have the characters talking like normal. But then when they're listening, if I needed to mess with the time compression, I'd slip into slow motion. Your eye goes to the person who's talking, but for the people who aren't talking, talking, unless they're doing some sort of vigorous activity, you won't notice that it goes into slow motion for a little bit. This is the way that watchers could play out the perfect timing of the lines, as if all the parts were filmed simultaneously. That's the magic of movies. You put it all together and nobody knows. The split-screen sequence was recently recreated by Ed Sheeran, Amber Rose, Iggy Azalea, and Waka Flocka Flame. The scene is famous not only for its smart technical improvisations, but also for the dynamic between the girls it would portray. Peter Bragg would say that Tina Fey's script isn't just smarter than the genre demands, it knows inside and out the hierarchies that will always exist in high school, and the severe emotional damage we often inflict upon each other during those tenuous 4 years. It's really quite ugly and brutal, and what's so sharp about Mean Girls is it manages to live in its quite acidic underbelly with great humor, quirky characters, and tons of classic scenes and lines. Tina Fey would say that her mom was also an inspiration for the Mean Girls script. She would say, "My mom has this habit that if she sees a lady in a really ugly hat or glittery sweatshirt, she'll go, 'I love your shirt,' and I'll say, 'Mom, that's really mean.' And she'll say clearly she wanted someone to notice that shirt. She picked it out. It has a huge teddy bear on it." For the role of Regina, Rachel McAdams had to mimic Alec Baldwin's character Glengarry Glen from the movie of the same name from 1992. The character was used as a rough draft for Regina. Another fun fact is that Regina actually means queen in Latin, Italian, and Romanian, and this title is quite fit for the description of the most popular girl as the Queen Bee in the book that the movie was based on. So Cady is throwing a party and invites Aaron Samuels to it. We all know the scene in which Cady doesn't have a word vomit but an actual vomit when Regina enters the room and finds them two together. To create the disgusting prop, the film crew mixed up chicken soup and cereal. But according to actor Jonathan Bennett, who played Aaron Samuels, she had to pretend to throw it up on me, and it was so gross because it was going on my clothes. And then afterwards, when they cut the movie together, they never showed it, so I realized I did that all for nothing. Afterwards, she goes out and sees Janice and Damien, to whom she lied that she could not come to Janice's art show. They get mad and tell her the revelatory, "Honey, you're not pretending anymore. You're plastic, cold, shiny, hard plastic." Damien also tells her that he wants his pink shirt back, which was another line he added to the script. The name of the character Janice Ian was actually an homage to musician with the same name, the first SNL musical guest from 1975. One of her songs, At 17, can be heard playing in one of the scenes in Regina's house. The character from Mean Girls was bullied and called a lesbian throughout the movie, and the real Janice Ian was actually a lesbian herself. Lizzie Kaplan was at first considered too pretty for playing the character. Mark Waters felt like for this character, a Kelly Osbourne-like actress was necessary, but Kaplan was picked for being able to portray raw emotion. In one of the most culminating scenes of the movie, Regina George decides to litter the whole school with pages of the burn book, thus ensuring chaos and taking her revenge to the plastics that abandoned her. The filming of the school scenes actually took place in Lincoln Park High School in Chicago. Exterior shots of the school were of Etobicoke Collegiate Institute, as well as hallway scenes. Some scenes were also filmed at a lakefront park in Lincoln Park, Chicago. The school is thought to have been inspired by the famous/infamous New Trier High School of the North Shore, that is notable for its affluent students. However, most of the scenes of the movie were actually filmed in Toronto, Canada. The filmmaking experience wasn't as glamorous as anticipated. The full cast stayed together in the same hotel, and Tina Fey recalled a persistent hotel fire alarm that woke them up pretty much every night at some point. Twice the film foreshadows that someone will be hit by a bus. The first time is when Cady's first day and she doesn't check the road, and the second time is when Cady uses this phrase, "This one hit me like a big yellow school bus," when talking about the crush she has on Aaron Samuels. There's a lot of deleted scenes that never made it into the movie because they wanted to keep its teen rating, but there's one where Regina is recovering from the surgery and her mom tells her that the doctor told her that she needs to eat Keltin bars to gain weight to get better, and she goes into a fit. And another more touching one in the bathroom during the spring fling queen, in which Cady meets Regina, apologizes, and is being forgiven. The last scene was actually left in the new adapted musical, and I think it's really nice how they show a closure and a resolution between the conflict of the two mean girls. The moral of this story: Every single girl of this movie was a mean girl, or at least that's how I see it. The plastics, Cady, but also Janice, for all her scheming behind Regina's back to make her gain weight and lose her friends. Tina Fey would say, I think that girls are ingenious in how they find ways to sabotage one another in these invisible, unseen, hurtful ways. What struck me most were the anecdotes of the girls that were interviewed for the book. Rosalind rightfully takes them very seriously, but in my opinion, they're also very funny. I mean, the way girls mess with each other is so clever and intricate and probably very instinctive. She also said that only the adults find the movie funny. They're the ones who are laughing. Young people watch it like a reality show. It's much too close to their real experiences, so they are not exactly guffawing. The movie really was a pivotal point in the mainstream media. Not only is it Mariah Carey's favorite movie, she also did a trivia quiz with Tina Fey in a YouTube video and knew all the answers. But also wrote a whole song inspired by the movie called Obsessed, having the classic line, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" Lindsey Lohan revealed that Mariah Carey and her have the same makeup artist, and that whenever she sees her, she says, "On Wednesdays, I wear pink." There is also a sequel to the movie called Mean Girls 2 that premiered on ABC Family on January 23rd, 2011. But at the same time, no there isn't, and we are all collectively ignoring its existence. Julia Cudney will explain you why. October 3rd has been dubbed on social media as Mean Girls Day, in reference to the quote said by Cady. On October 3rd, he asked me what date it was. The last fun fact I want to say about this movie and end this video with is that yes, indeed, just like her character Karen, Amanda Seyfried can actually stick her fist in her mouth. I hope you liked this video and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you very soon and go eat a Kelton bar. Bye!